Hey Nakama, this is Gomu Gomu. It's me. My name is Alden or Alden, and today we're gonna be doing. I don't know how to name it yet. It's either gonna be called "Who Made This Wednesdays" or "What to Watch Wednesdays." I don't know which kind of angle I'm gonna take it with. Now, the premise or the whole idea behind this is I watch a season of an anime. Hopefully, it's not like 80 episodes, but I watch a season of an anime, maybe more new school ones because they tend to be shorter. And I tell you, if you should watch it, if you should skip it, and just basically give you a review of it. This is my honest anime review. I have no loyalties, I guess, to anybody or anything. The only anime I probably won't do something like this. Actually, yeah, there's no anime I wouldn't do something like this. So, if you have any anime you want me to watch, let me know in the comments below. But today we're gonna be talking about Blue Lock. Hopefully, I can get it to say it right here. But anyways, so now whenever I try to do an anime review, I always try to think of a way to compare it to one of the bigger anime, like a Demon Slayer, a Bleach, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, Dragon Ball Z. Naruto. Like I try to bring things to the mainstream. So whenever I talk to somebody who doesn't necessarily watch anime, I'm not like, oh, it's like this one obscure anime that only has 10 episodes and nobody's ever heard, something like that. So Blue Lock is very unique to itself. Now, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and talk about Kuroko's basketball, if that's the exact name, haiku, like whatever, like none of those. I'm not talking about sports animes. I'm just trying to compare it to things I have seen that are quote unquote mainstream. So we're off that, right? So now, Blue Lock is centered around a young man. He's in high school, I guess they call it. But his name is Isagi Yoichi, and He's a soccer player, right? So the starting scene, and like I'm just gonna break down the first episode, 2 episodes, but like it's not gonna be in succinct order. So bear with me. I'm just trying to explain everything as I saw it, right? So, anyways, the starting scene, you see Isagi with the ball, and in his mind, he's going over the dilemma of, do I pass it or do I keep it and shoot it, right? And in the back of his mind, he's hearing his coach yelling, all for one and one for all and all that nonsense. So he passes the ball off, right? He passes the ball off. The teammate gets it, hits the post. The main cast, where I thought was the main cast, they go on to lose the game 2-0. Now, this was a very important game. I think they could get to nationals or whatever the case may be. They obviously don't go to nationals. So Isagi is a second-year forward, and he's feeling like his dreams are crushed because in Japan, I mean, this is mainly everywhere, but in Japan, they have a very they rely on skills, talents, and stuff, but they also want to see that you can achieve things with the skills and talents because they don't. If you're the best at doing something, but you can't elevate people around you or you can't elevate your stuff like that, they don't care, right? So he feels like his dream's dead because he didn't help his team advance. Now they talk about they bring up some like players that they make up, but then they also, which I like, they sprinkle in Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Pele, and stuff, and people like that. So they have their own people, but then they sprinkle in some people from time to time. Noel Noah is a French superstar that Isagi is really like, he really admires. So that's somebody that you'll hear. You won't hear quite often, but you will hear like a couple times throughout the show. But anyways, Isagi's dream is to play for the national team and to win the World Cup. Obviously he's crushed, and I've said that before, but he's walking back home and he feels like he's never going to be able to play again. But then he gets home and he gets a letter to become a certified athlete. So he's like, it's from the Japanese Soccer Federation. Of course I'm going to go. Like, this is what I've wanted my whole life. So he shows up and the room is packed out. It's 318 and under strikers. Every single one of the people in the room is a striker. By definition, like they all want to score goals and stuff like that. So we come to find out from the host that Blue Lock is actually a training / competition to become the best striker ever in Japan and in the world. So, it's very competitive. There's a lot of egos in the room. There's a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. So, that's another thing Isagi's got to have to deal with, breaking out of his shell a little bit, because you can see he's kind of more reserved, right? So the host explains that the conditions are you stay there and you can't go back to your old life. Now that's not to say like you can never leave and you're kidnapped. It's just, during the competition, you have to be focused. So, some people are like feeling a little, I don't know if I want to do this and stuff like that. So the host starts to talk about Noel Noah. He's a big deal, but he seems to be selfish and not a good idol if you're looking at it from the outside point of view, because obviously he's not going to score everything. So like he'll take on shots that maybe he shouldn't, but it's his selfish and arrogant nature that makes him do it. So he starts to then the host starts to talk about Eric Cantona and Pele having quotes about being selfish. So, he's trying to, I guess, normalize the ego and mentality of a striker. So, all the kids are starting to settle in, listening to what the host is saying. And, Isagi breaks out of his shell and he's the first one to run through the door to take on the challenge. So when they all get, when everybody finally pushes through and they all get separated into, roommates and dorms and stuff, Isagi finds the player that beat him, and I didn't mention the player's name earlier because he becomes really insignificant, but he meets the player that beat him in the, big match or whatever, in the thing. They're roommates, right? Like dorm mates, I guess, because everybody's like around each other. So you come to find out that you're all ranked, that everybody's ranked, and Isagi is ranked 299th player in Blue Lock. So that means there's one person worse than him. So, that doesn't obviously fill him with a lot of confidence. So a prize is a spot on the I was about to try to say it like that, but the under 20 World Cup. I was going to say the U20, the under 20 World Cup. And if you lose, you can never play for Japan, like international soccer wise. So, it's very high stakes, because on one hand, you can get automatically into a team that maybe otherwise you would have had to work very hard and gone through a lot of hurdles to get to. On the other hand, if you lose, you can't ever play for your country again. And that's very important to a lot of players in the soccer community. They want to play for their, nation. So the contest starts off. It's not like just, we're all going to run into the field and, bam, we're going to see who's the best kicker, who's the fastest and stuff like that. So the contest starts off with a game of tag. Now there's no actual rules except handball, obviously. And everybody's running around scrambling, kicking the ball at each other. And if you kick it and hit somebody, obviously they're now it. So Isagi, unlocks his inner ego, the same ego that pushed him through the door and says, I got to take care of the guy that beat me in the nationals. So he, through teamwork, I guess, even though this is a solo competition, he ends up getting rid of the guy that beat him. And, his name was Kira. It was a pretty stunning way of getting rid of him too. So that's how that happens. So that pretty much covers like the first episode. And now I just want to talk about the ups, the downs, the pros, the cons, what I would rate it and stuff like that. Now, before I get into that, there are no monsters in this anime. There's no powers and stuff like that. But what I will say is they have like mentality monsters that kind of bring to life, I guess you could call it, because whenever somebody starts to get into the zone or whatever you want to call it, you see a monster start to appear, and that's that person's inner will coming to the forefront. Like they have to score. Like, so one of the players' names is Bachura, and his talent is dribbling. So when his monster comes out, he just wants to dribble everybody. He wants to rainbow flick somebody. He wants to flip flap elastico, all that stuff over people. So there's no like monsters, and there's no real antagonist, but it's not like everything's fun and games, right? So now to get to my pros and cons. Now, pros, I will say the animation is top notch. Now, if there's a place where somebody's like kicking a ball and their feet do something weird, I didn't see that. I wasn't looking that closely, but if you find it and let me know, I might take like a point off of my overall rating. But from what I saw, the animation was great. It's not easy to animate the movements of a soccer player, especially one doing skills and dribbles and stuff. So to see somebody actually recreate an elastico on anime, it was pretty amazing. It was pretty special. So animation was a big plus. So one of the other pros is I like how everybody's the same position. Now that's also going to go into the con category, but it's kind of like one of those in-betweeners. I just like that nobody has like an unfair advantage. Like, so let's say you're doing they're playing their full like teams or whatever. But then all that's left is a team full of strikers or whatever, and a team full of defenders. Now, if the team is full of defenders and they're all high level, they might end up just stalling the game out. So that's one of the pros. I'm gonna get to the cons because honestly, I feel like there were more cons than there were pros, but that doesn't mean I didn't like the anime. One of the cons, and I'm gonna just piggyback off what I said, is they were just strikers playing against strikers, so you don't know how good these people are actually gonna be until they play people who defend for a living, quote unquote. So another thing is one of the episodes you get to see the 5 quote unquote best from the Blue Lock Academy or training facility or whatever you want to call it take on like some of the best players, like some of the best young players in the world, and there's no explanation. There's no explainable way that these 5 are going to catch up to the World 5. Now, the World 5, they have pace, they have power, they have strength, they have everything. Now, the people in the Blue Lock Academy, they have like one, maybe 2 things that they are exemplary at, but everything else they fall short of towards these, world beaters. So it's just kind of, I don't like when they set unattainable goals, right? So I'm not saying, have like these people, but to bring them to human level, but just don't have them like S tier, like if the Blue Lock people are like B tier, have them like A plus tier, something like that. Like, so in the second season, I can't see them catching up. They're not going to get faster. They're not going to get stronger. Their, abilities are still going to fall short. So it's going to be like, okay, we're working this hard, but to what, So that's just one of the things. Another thing I don't like is there's only one spot. Now, if there was, let's say, 2, maybe even 3 spots, we already know that Isagi is going to win. One way, by hook or crook, he's going to win. So, what? Like, we know how the cake is made. We just don't know what ingredients go into it. We don't know how we're getting there, but we just know we're getting there. So it's like, yeah, it's cool and everything, and I want to enjoy the journey, but it's like if there was 2 other spots or even 1 spot, it would be interesting to see how that person interacts with Isagi throughout you get what I'm saying? So that's just one of the cons I had. I'll just go to my rating. The rating I would give it is like a 3.5, maybe even like a 3.2 after mentioning what I just mentioned. It's a good anime. It's very fun. There is going to be a season 2, so maybe season 2 will bump it up, but it's just not something that I can see going on for a long time. Like, and obviously not every anime is meant to do that. Not every anime is meant to be One Piece with 1,000 episodes. But what I will say is, it doesn't give me, like, there's animes that give you a reason to come back. Like, even if they don't end on a cliffhanger, there's reasons you want to come back to the anime. Now, something like a Demon Slayer, there's a new mission coming abroad. Like, something like Naruto, there's a new threat coming. Like this, they played the World 5 people, but it was just like a scrim. It was like an exhibit, like having fun. So there's nothing they're working towards right now. They're working towards this one spot, which doesn't really give a lot of leeway for the main character to not perform well when we all know that he's not as good as everybody else. So that's just a couple things. Like I said, like it's a good anime, especially if you like sports, especially if you like soccer. And, it's something fun. Like it's not super, it doesn't take itself super seriously, which is another thing I like. That's another pro. But anyways, yeah, that's my review on Blue Lock. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If there's any other anime you want me to review, any other sports, and any old soccer anime, whatever the case may be, please like, share, and subscribe. Be safe and well in your travels. And just know, I will be the king of YouTube. Peace.